Jerry, thanks for your words, and thanks to all of you for joining us this afternoon. It is good to be with you, even virtually, to know that we can share in the work of ushering our congregation from one successful year to the next. As Jerry said, this has been a year that none of us could have predicted and that none of us will ever forget. This year has been demanding and challenging, and it has presented us with losses that we never could have imagined, but also with a few gifts that we never would have expected. I don't have to tell you that our entire community, our state, and our whole nation has gone through dramatic upheaval this year, financially, culturally, and emotionally as well. The beginning of a new year at Temple presents us with a unique opportunity to revisit and reevaluate the work of our synagogue and the way it works to make people's lives more meaningful and our time on earth more significant. And so in my report to you today, I want to look briefly at 3 of the different functions that a synagogue plays and 3 of the different names by which a synagogue has been known throughout Jewish history. First, a synagogue is a Beit Midrash, a house of study. I wanted to start with this dimension of our congregational life because this year our schools, as Jerry shared with you, have done exceptional work at keeping learners of all ages engaged and inspired. Even when so many other parts of our city's life were shut down, our schools continued doing their work. The Becker School never skipped a beat in educating our preschool and kindergarten students, getting our faculty quickly up to speed on best practices in hygiene and pedagogy so that our kids' lives could get back to normal and their parents could get back to work. In the Helfman Religious School, the pivot to online learning was swift and efficient, and the lessons we learned there were quickly and easily applied to other areas of congregational education, including Shabbat Torah study, lectures for adults, film discussions, book talks, and the recent Cantor's concert. As we move toward the end of this academic year and start our planning for the next, Stephanie Carlson, our Director of Congregational Learning, is doing rigorous and expansive thinking about how the lessons we've learned this year can enrich Jewish education after the pandemic, and how we will balance the potential of online learning with the experiences of studying with others in person that can never be replicated or replaced by Zoom. Second, a synagogue is a Beit Tfilah, a house of prayer. Together, all of us who are leaders and participants in prayer have learned so many new skills, and our community of worship has learned to use so many new tools for live streaming and recording content online, tools for reading liturgy on the screens of our tablets and our phones, tools for offering every imaginable resource on demand, from Purim spiels to Shiva minions. Our clergy team has had to learn too. We've had to learn how to give sermons to cameras instead of to people's faces. We've had to learn to adapt our pastoral care to provide comfort to the bereaved and to rejoice with wedding couples and new parents and B'nai Mitzvah families when they couldn't be surrounded by their circles of family and friends. I know that we haven't done it perfectly every time, but I believe that we have done it very, very well. The next milestone in the life of our house of prayer is the planning for this year's High Holy Days. And I want to share with you that we are moving cautiously ahead with the assumption that with certain restrictions and common sense precautions in place to keep everyone safe, we will be able to worship together in the building for this year's High Holy Days. We know that this circumstance will likely be even more difficult and challenging than last year's was, as we work to produce an experience that is stirring and fulfilling and transformative for those who are praying with us in the Bearer Sanctuary, just as for those who will be praying from their homes. We look forward to having more specific detail to share with you about what this year's High Holy Days will look like. And I want to thank you in advance for your patience and for your participation in the process as we reach out to you to share your thoughts and feelings. Finally, And maybe most importantly, a congregation is a Beit Knesset, a house of meeting. For a couple of years now, I've been talking to you in this and other settings about the rising trends of loneliness and disconnection in our society. You may have seen the report last month that for the first time in their history of recording this data, a Gallup poll has now shown that fewer than 50% of Americans, a statistical minority, fewer than half of us belong to a church, synagogue, or other community of faith. So we're now entering an uncharted territory, a perfect storm of emotional and spiritual crisis, as social forces and medical realities conspire to compound people's feelings of hopelessness, fear, and isolation. And so a community like ours has to work extra hard, mobilizing our many resources to respond to this crisis in ways that are thoughtful, strategic, and deeply Jewish. Being part of a sacred community changes people's lives because it helps us understand that our time on earth is more meaningful and more consequential than we might otherwise have thought. That's something that happens when a community brings us into relationship with Jewish tradition, with God, and with each other. And so to this end, the leadership of our congregation has steadily increased our commitment to pastoral care, including the mobilization of our board of trustees that Jerry mentioned in making those hundreds and hundreds of personal phone calls to our members. And I want to add my thanks to hers, to all of those who made calls and all of those who answered. Our return to in-person community life, therefore, is more urgent and more important than ever before. And all of us are working very hard to welcome you back to Temple lovingly and carefully. I want to add my thanks to Jerry's, to the leadership of our reopening task force. Philip Tenenbaum chairs that task force. And that task force gathers together the best available guidance from medical and ethical and legal expertise to make sure that we can all come back together in person in ways that are safe and thoughtful and equitable. I want to conclude by offering my thanks to my partner, Jerry, who has been the best kind of congregational president during the most difficult kind of year. She has been steady and reliable and principled and fair, responsive and kind. She's been a great role model to our congregation and an excellent partner, and I am delighted to continue working with her, even though the months ahead will surely hold more unexpected challenges. I'm thankful also to our board of trustees and the members of our committees who are coming to the end of their terms of faithful service to our congregation, and I'm so excited about the new group of leaders who will join them in leading Emmanuel, our beloved house of study, prayer, and meeting from strength to strength. Thank you all. And it's my pleasure now to invite our immediate past president, Rodney Roth, to give the nominating report.